Hi, Misfits. This is Kevin.
And this is Kate.
Welcome to Horrorwood.
2025!
2025! New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How was your New Year's?
My New Year's was good. I had a really nice time.
In the club.
In the club. I went to Hopleaf.
I love Hopleaf.
I love Hopleaf. I usually end up there on New Year's Eve anyway. But my friends Brittany, Nick, Scott, John, and Abby were all there, and we drank wine and had a great time. Celebrated the New Year, rang it in. Everyone was tired after midnight, but Abby and I went to a club.
Wow. To be young.
Oh, I'm not young. And it was fun. It was crowded.
Yeah.
It was Atmosphere in Andersonville.
Okay.
I'd never been there before. I always walked by. I always forget that it's there.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I had a nice time.
Nice.
My mistake was having a tequila shot before I left.
Woof.
That was my downfall.
Yes.
So mistakes were made.
Lessons learned.
Lessons were learned, or should have been learned about 20 years ago. But no, I had a great time. So Happy New Year. What'd you do?
New Year.
You fell asleep at 11. You text me.
I sure did. We went to dinner with some friends at Blowfish. And
Yum.
then, so also in Andersonville, kind
Ooh.
of. And then we came home and we sat on the couch with our dog. And we both looked at each other and said, we're not going to make it till midnight. And I wanted to stay up till at least 11 so I could wish my family who are on the Eastern time zone a Happy New Year, which I did. And as soon as I sent the text, I went to bed.
Yes. Well, you made it to East Coast New Year's.
Exactly.
There you go.
So
I think that counts.
It was 2025 somewhere.
Right.
And that's what
That's
matters.
all that matters.
And it's a new year, and this is a new topic, and I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I will say real quick, in regards to New Year's, when I was a kid, my mom and dad and I used to take pots and pans and go out on the porch and bang them together with like...
Was that a neighborhood thing? Did other people do that?
I don't think so.
So just the Corbetts out there.
Banging our pots and pans
Okay.
together. That makes us sound weird. I liked it though. I'm gonna, next year when I ring in 2026, you better watch out for these pots and pans.
I'll be asleep, but you go nuts.
Okay. This tale. So today we're talking about a murdered actress by the name of Christa Helm.
Okay.
Christa Helm's life, anything but ordinary. She had an insane, kind of amazing life, which
Really?
we're going to talk all about. In the 1970s, she was a striking beauty, gorgeous blonde hair.
Okay.
Beautiful woman. Love. She knew how to make an entrance, let's
All
just say.
right.
And she mixed with the powerful men of Hollywood, foreign royalty, and the
Oh.
glittering elite of New York's social scene.
She was out there.
She was in it
All right.
to win it. But behind the allure of her fame and her wild ambition, there was something darker lurking. There were rumors of espionage,
Oh.
secret relationships, and mysterious gifts from powerful men that circulated around her. And then, just as it seemed like she was on the cusp of even greater things, Christa's life was tragically cut short. She was murdered in a shocking crime that left many wondering who wanted her dead and why. So let's dive into the story of Christa Helm, the Black Dahlia of the disco era.
Oh, let's do it.
I like that term. I mean, that's an awful term, but that's what she's sort of known as.
I see.
So Christa's story begins on a crisp November 10th day, in 1949.
All right.
November 10th. You know,
Was it November 10th?
I guess. I mean, I have to look it up. No, it was.
Oh, okay.
In Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh, all right.
She was born Sandra Lynn Wohlfeil. It might be Wohlfeil or Wohlfeil. I went with the German pronunciation of Wohlfeil.
Sounds great to me.
I like it. She was born to parents Harry and Dolores Volfile. Harry worked diligently for an asphalt company. We all need that. And Dolores managed the household. But life at home was not great.
Ooh.
Dolores struggled with alcoholism.
Yikes.
Which created turmoil in the family and strained her marriage to Harry.
Sure.
By the time Sandra was 8, her parents divorced,
okay.
leaving her and her two younger sisters, Deborah and Marissa, caught in the middle of a messy divorce. But after the divorce, the girls initially stayed with Dolores. They went with their mom.
Really?
Which feels weird to me.
Yeah.
I think the dad was like, like stepping away. They eventually do go to live with him. But
okay.
The situation at home with Dolores gets worse, like than it already was when they were married.
Yeah.
And the drinking was crazy. She just kept having a bunch of men over all the time.
I mean, I was going to say, because now she's a single woman.
Right.
And trying to raise these 3 girls.
Right.
Interesting that they went to live with her. I wonder if that was the parents' choice or if they let the kids decide.
I don't know.
Huh.
So the situation was just crazy. It led to a toxic environment. And unfortunately, it was sort of this unsaid thing, but they were experiencing sexual abuse from these men that the mom was bringing home. And each of the girls also suffered from spinal issues, like spina bifida, caused by Dolores' drinking and use of diet pills during her pregnancies.
Wow. That's awful.
So Sandy, when she was a young girl, she was wearing like a corrective back brace, which was tough. But thankfully, those were corrected early enough with the use of those braces. So it wasn't like a lifelong issue.
Okay.
Eventually, Sandra and her sisters moved in with their father. They got out of there.
All right.
Eventually.
Do you know like around how old they were?
She was about 8 or 9. So
when they moved in
with
him?
Moved in with him, yeah.
Oh, so because they divorced when she was 8, so it doesn't sound like she stayed too long.
I don't think they were there that long.
That's good.
No. Despite the early upheavals, Sandra emerged as determined and vibrant. This didn't like stop her.
It didn't define her.
One of her childhood friends named Darlene Thorison said that she was fun and outgoing. She had a high opinion of herself.
Good.
And it was more like a self-confidence she carried. It wasn't like a narcissism.
Like conceited or anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing was going to stand in her way. So that confidence carried Sandra through her teenage years. However, at 16, her life took a dramatic turn when she met and became pregnant by Gary Clements, who was a 34-year-old.
Oh, no.
Well, wait a second, because there's articles that say 34 and there's articles that say 26.
Either way, not okay.
Not a good thing.
She's a minor.
She's 16, yeah. So she becomes pregnant by Gary, who's an older person who owns a karate school in Milwaukee, and she had been working at the karate school.
So abuse of power.
Yeah.
Great. All the bad things.
Yep. So Sandra had been working there, and there were rumors that he was somehow involved with a local mob. But that never really was corroborated. It's wild.
Weird. Okay.
A mob in Milwaukee.
I was going to say I didn't know that it was prevalent there, but all right.
I mean, hey, this is the 60s, so we don't know what's going on there.
Mobbing.
Mobs in Milwaukee. Cheese mobs.
Nice.
Hey, I think I just figured out a new chain of cheese stores.
Or a new profession.
Cheese mob.
I'm a cheese mobster. That would actually do so well in Chicago.
I know, right?
Cheese mobster.
Oh
my God.
Kate, this is our new venture.
Yes. With all the spare time we have. Cheese mobster.
So Gary and Sandra fell pretty hard for each other at first. Mm-hmm. But as soon as she became pregnant, her parents were like, you have to get married to this guy. Yeah, not great. They came down to Chicago, just outside of Chicago, and got married.
Really?
And shockingly, Gary left Sandra the night after their honeymoon.
I am stunned. What? That wasn't matrimonial bliss?
Not at all.
You mean he didn't stick around after he impregnated a teenage girl and was forced to then marry her? That's crazy.
Who would have thunk?
Yeah, not me.
I know. But she wakes up in the hotel room the next day and he's just gone.
Awesome.
And in the years that followed, Sandra would tell her daughter and others that Gary had tragically died in a motorcycle accident after leaving them. However, in reality, it's believed that Gary lived for many more years because there was no way to verify the motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
She's like, that bitch is dead.
I mean, I understand that from her point of view, in that she wouldn't want to tell her kid, like, he's out there or he didn't want to meet you as
Exactly. I get it. Like, just, the lie makes sense to me. Like, she wouldn't want to put her daughter
I mean, it
through
sucks, but
100%.
I understand why she might have said that.
I do too. So after this, Sandy begins working as a waitress at Travado's. It's an Italian restaurant on Milwaukee's east side. There, she meets this nice girl named Diane Mitchell, who's also a waitress there. And they become fast friends.
Okay.
Diane later says that she liked Sandra, aka Christa, immediately. And she said that she was down to earth, gregarious, very pretty. You wanted to be around her.
Okay.
She talked about her late husband, Gary, who died in a motorcycle accident.
Sure, it was the 60s, I guess. But also, like, here comes this 16-year-old, 17-year-old girl probably by now.
Yeah.
Talking about her late husband.
Right.
Like, what?
It's insane.
I'd be like, I have questions.
I'd be like, friends. We're friends. So Sandy and Diane, that's a nice name. Sandy and Diane eventually rented a 2-bedroom apartment near the restaurant, furnished with help from their moms.
Okay.
The daughter's named Nicole, Sandra's daughter. Diane also has a little girl named Kalina.
Ooh, I like that.
They stay with their grandmothers while the girls work and live in this apartment.
Got it.
So they go to stay with the grandmothers and they visit on weekends.
Okay.
Diane remembered that they'd go out to eat after work almost every night. And Sandy loved escargot.
Whoa.
Which is, it's so expensive, and ate it constantly.
How did she afford that?
That's a good question. I mean, this is a very attractive young woman who's working as a waitress. So I can imagine that tip money.
I mean, did they have it at that way? Like, was escargot at that restaurant?
It could have been.
Because that would make sense to me.
Right.
What wouldn't make sense is her, like, going out and blowing all that money on that.
Well, we don't know the prices of escargot in the 1960s. Anyway, so one day their boss at the restaurant invites Sandy and Diane to the Playboy Club.
Is the boss male or female?
The boss is male. In Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And who worked at the Playboy place in Wisconsin?
Carol
Gold. They had to cross paths.
Sure.
They had to. She started working at the Playboy clubs in the 1960s and was there through the 70s until she met. Yeah. They crossed paths.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. So their boss takes them to the Playboy Club in Lake Geneva.
Don't love that. Don't love that some male boss, again, it just feels like she suffers all of this abuse by these older men as a child, and it just feels like a pattern now. Like, that's what she knows.
Well, you'll see that throughout her story.
It sounds like it.
But the boss takes them to see James Darren, who's an actor.
Okay.
A popular actor at the time. And they got to meet him and like talk to him, and it made a huge impact on both of them. It was a thrilling experience. They were inspired by it. And so Sandy and Diane were like, well, you know what? We're going to become Playboy bunnies. And they auditioned. They go and they decide to audition, and they were both hired and eagerly returned for their bunny fittings.
All right.
Which included training and a tour of the dorms where they would live. I didn't know there were bunny dorms.
I didn't either.
I think that's fascinating. Fabulous.
I mean, I knew about like the Playboy Mansion in LA,
right.
But I didn't know that there were these smaller places, like smaller cities that had these.
Right. Well, no, I mean, that's what I found interesting, because like when I was talking about Carol Gold, I didn't realize that the Playboy Club in Lake Geneva was a full-fledged
Yeah, because
club.
when we did that episode, you said she worked at
a gift shop.
At a gift shop. And so in my mind, I was like, why would there be a Playboy gift shop in Lake Geneva?
My mistake.
I was so confused by that.
Figured it out. Corrections corner on my part. ignore when I say stuff in that previous episode. If you're listening not in order. If you are, then I've corrected the mistake.
Indeed.
So they're excited to become Playboy bunnies.
Okay.
They're into it. They're like, we're going to do this. We're going to have fun. We're going to be sexy. We're going to mingle with celebrity. However, Diane's plans fall apart when her mother refuses to care for Kalina.
Yep, there is that child.
Yeah, they have kids. Diane says that she was devastated and that Sandy was too, but Sandy refused to go do it without Diane.
Oh, all right.
So neither of them become Playboy bunnies.
Okay.
I think that's nice.
I mean, you have responsibilities.
Right, exactly. And they're like 18, 19 years old.
Priorities.
Yeah. Oosh. That didn't stop Sandy and Diane from pursuing this dream career. So in 1970, Sandy and Diane moved to New York City.
Okay, well, that changed.
Right.
Okay.
With dreams of becoming models.
Okay. So where are the kids at this point?
They leave their daughters in the care of a trusted family friend, Mrs. Gertrude Baker, who lives in Burlington, Vermont.
I do trust a woman named Gertrude Baker.
I do too. I'd be like, yes, take my children.
She just sounds like she's wholesome and is going to raise them right.
She's business. She means business when it comes to childcare.
She's responsible.
Yes.
I'm getting all of that from the name.
Oh, Diane recalled that Mrs. Baker was very nice, and she and Sandy did not have any reservations about leaving the girls with her.
Okay.
After arriving in New York, the pair stayed at the YWCA.
Okay.
And began pursuing modeling opportunities. However, the experience quickly turns pretty disheartening here because they didn't have a portfolio.
Sure.
They didn't have any money or any kind of experience. They were like, let's go be models in New York.
Yeah. But they did not know what they were getting into.
Exactly. And Diane said that every newspaper ad they found was either for straight pornography or lesbian-oriented photo shoots.
Yikes.
And they were like, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But to support themselves, they found work as waitresses at the Gaslight Club. And soon after, Sandy began a relationship with Ray Abruzzese, a handsome football player for the Buffalo Bills.
Okay.
And Sandy eventually moves in with him.
All right.
She stays in touch with Sandy. They're still best friends. They talk often. And Sandy shares that she had started to take singing and acting lessons at the Jean Frankel Workshop in Manhattan.
All right.
Sandy's daughter, Nicole, did get to visit her in the city from time to time. Gertrude sent her over. I don't know if she took her. Nicole later recounts that going to see my mom was the greatest thing in the whole world.
Aww.
Sandy liked being a kept woman, I guess. Like, she enjoyed having relationships with wealthy men who provided her with some kind of financial stability.
I see.
The romance with the football player Ray was short-lived, but because he was a famous football player, it became a thing in the sports world.
What do you mean
beyond.
it became a thing?
Like, tabloids would write about it.
Oh, like she was getting known through him.
Correct.
Got it.
Because he's famous.
Yeah.
So she, like this, everybody knows about this, like romance, they're
Yeah.
lovers, all of this. So this is where we start to see her kind of come into the public eye with these like wealthy, famous men. Sandy would go on to meet Stuart Duncan, who's a wealthy producer whose family founded Lee and Perrins.
Oh, the Worcestershire sauce?
Wash your sister sauce. Empire.
Amazing.
Yeah. Duncan's third theatrical venture was the musical Godspell, which would go on to become a huge Broadway success. And actually, Duncan helps Sandra to invest some money into the show.
Oh, wow.
And when it became a hit, she's making buku
She got a
bucks.
payout. That's good.
Yeah. She got a big payout. So by 1972, literally 2 years after moving to New York, Sandy has a second home in the Hamptons.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. So you can see how well Godspell did for her.
Yeah.
And also she's with this
Wealthy guy.
wealthy producer.
Yeah.
Which we know the Hamptons is also a hotspot for celebrity on Long Island. Just in case no one knew that.
Have you ever been to the Hamptons?
No.
Haven't either. All I know about the Hamptons is what I've seen in Sex and the City.
Me too.
That is
Only if I can throw a melon through a window like Samantha does.
That is my entire vision of the Hamptons.
And Burger, when Carrie meets Burger in the
Oh,
Hamptons.
yeah.
But we know how that ends.
Yeah. She got crabs there. Remember that?
Oh, my God. Charlotte did.
Oh, was it Charlotte? I was
Charlotte,
thinking it was...
because she sleeps with that college guy at the bonfire party.
This was just a little look into Kevin and Kate's college lives, sitting and watching Sex in the City.
I had the Pink Book DVDs.
Oh, I had all the DVDs back when you had to have DVDs to watch things.
It doesn't age that well.
Oh, no. Most things back then don't.
So the house in the Hamptons, it's not confirmed, but it's rumored that Stewart bought that for her as a gift.
Oh, so that was not her
It might
Godspell
not have,
money.
I don't know. Rumor said that Stewart did it. I don't know, though, because she's getting buku bucks from Godspell.
All right.
So it might have been a mixture of both.
What should we invest in to make buku bucks?
Cheese Mobster.
Cheese Mobster.
Anywho, so Diane recalls going over to that house in the Hamptons, her friend Diane. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they arrived, Sandy greeted her with her blouse undone, proudly showing off her newly enlarged boobies. Breasts. Right. Diane couldn't help but laugh.
Oh.
She was like, what? Sandy had clearly embraced the changes she'd made to her body. Diane noticed that she seemed a little more jaded than she previously had, though it seemed to come with the lifestyle she was now living.
Yeah.
She got her boobs done, and that wouldn't be all that she would do.
Totally fine.
Oh,
if that's what you
I'm
want
not
to do.
judging.
Absolutely do what you want to do. But it sounds like in her case, there's some deeper stuff going on that's making her feel like she has to change herself.
Right. Potentially. So yeah, Diane and Sandy party. They have some illegal substances, but they have a blast, a really good time. That weekend, Sandy also revealed that she'd changed her name to Christa Helm.
Did that come from anything specific?
I'll tell you. I'll get into it later. Explaining that an astrologer advised her to do so. The name came along with this new physical and mental version of herself. It was essentially like a full personal and professional rebrand. So from henceforth there now to Kate, Sandy shall be referred to as Christa.
Got it. Which, I mean, if you want to reinvent yourself, go for it.
Do it.
I'm all for it.
You go for it. To answer your question, I will talk a little bit later about maybe where the name came from. I can't pinpoint it exactly, but I can tell you what I think it came from.
All right.
But it comes a little bit later. So as Christa Helm, the 23-year-old began enhancing her already stunning appearance with more cosmetic procedures. She even paid to fix her daughter Nicole's crossed eyes.
Okay.
Nicole had crossed eyes.
I mean, that sounds medical, so I get that.
Yeah, which had been an issue since birth. So she got that corrected. She was doing other good things.
Yeah.
During this time, Christa made a new friend in New York, a young writer named Jeremiah Newton, who was the film, television, and video industry liaison for New York University's Tisch School of the Arts in Manhattan.
All right.
Back then, he was also a regular at the Stonewall Inn, a famous gay bar with its role in the gay pride movement. Christa met him through her friends Candy Darling, a well-known figure in Andy Warhol's circle. And she also meets Lenny Barron, who's a flamboyant New York City costume designer.
All right.
And Lenny would eventually go on to, like, make her clothes.
These sound like fascinating friends.
Yeah, I mean, together they were part of a wild crew living for fame, fortune, and fun in the vibrant NYC scene of the early 1970s.
All right.
She's in the scene. She's with the heavy hitters that we hear about. There were also rumors about her connection to the Shah of Iran.
Oh.
With tales of jewels gifted by him and Nicole's own memories of being in his company. We'll dive into him a little later on.
All right.
So, despite her glamorous lifestyle, Christa maintained ties to her Midwestern roots. She would still go back to Milwaukee and see friends and see people. At a Mother of Perpetual Help School reunion in 1973, her childhood classmates marveled at her transformation. And during a visit home, her childhood friend Darlene Thorison, who we talked about earlier, discovered Christa's diary, which was a continuation of a teenage tradition where they rated boys they knew. Except now, the diary contained names of prominent figures, some of whom were instantly recognizable. So she was continuing this thing of where she would date a guy, sleep with a guy, do something, and she would write their name down in the diary and put in like intimate details of that person and like rate them.
That
like
feels so weird to me.
I know, right? So the diary became a well-known secret among Christa's circle. Like Jeremiah and Lenny and Candy and everybody knew about it. And there was this young guy who kind of joined the friend group named Kent Moran. And Kent met Christa through Lenny. He was a teenager at the time, but he was captivated by Christa. He was obsessed with her.
Okay.
And at this time, Christa lived in a beautifully furnished townhouse on East 30th Street, where she hosted these huge decadent parties and gatherings. And Kent fondly described her as his hedonistic fairy godmother.
Well, all right.
I love it. The wealthy producer Stuart Duncan, remember Godspell, who had long supported her, decided to finance a film project to showcase her talents. The result was a movie called Let's Go for Broke, which was an adventurous spy thriller shot partially in Haiti. In the film, Christa plays Jackie Broke, an investigative journalist who infiltrates a dangerous criminal operation. The plot revolved around young women being kidnapped and taken to a mysterious island, with Jackie cleverly getting herself captured to ultimately save the day.
I see.
It was a role designed to highlight Christa's physicality and comedic flair. Envisioned as a female answer to Dean Martin's suave Matt Helm character.
What is that from?
Several movies. He played the same character. Think of James Bond as like an agent, but Dean Martin is playing Matt Helm. So there's a series of crime movies with Dean Martin playing this character. So that at the time was like I don't know how to even describe it. Spy movie person was Matt Helm.
Gotcha.
So I think that's where the name came from, Christa Helm.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I can't say because it doesn't say anywhere.
Sure.
But I mean, yeah. This wasn't Christa's first time on screen, though. A few years earlier, she had appeared in the cult horror film Legacy of Satan, which was directed by Deep Throat filmmaker Gerard Damiano. Shot in her New York City apartment, Christa played a member of a sinister cult, with her character meeting a bloody demise.
Feels very like
I know. I think
film school.
I think she just did this for shits and giggles with her friends. She's like, "We're gonna do this movie. We can shoot it at my apartment." Like, it's ridiculous, and it didn't really like go anywhere. I don't even think it came out until years after they shot it. But Let's Go for Broke promised to be a different kind of showcase that was going to essentially propel her into stardom. Is what they were hoping for.
Yeah.
The production faced challenges from the start. The budget was $700,000, but costs soon spiraled past $1 million.
Which is still very low budget.
Right. For this time, yeah, exactly. Haiti was chosen as a filming location to cut expenses, but the country's political unrest made it complicated. The crew worked under constant surveillance from local informants and within earshot of gunfire.
Shit.
Still, scenes were shot at the Le Chateau, one of the safer locations available.
Okay.
Not everyone involved had faith in this project. Dustin Smith, the key grip, was unimpressed with the production, describing it as chaotic. Despite setbacks, filming in Haiti wrapped after 6 weeks, but the movie wasn't finished. Reshoots were scheduled in Miami, bringing in a new crew to complete the project.
Yeah, sounds like it was a bit of a mess.
Yes. During the Miami shoot, Christa struck up a friendship with stunt coordinator George Fisher, and her infectious energy kept the team motivated through long days of exterior and stage work. However, the physical demands of her role took a big toll. During an action scene, Christa injured her back, which had already been weakened by childhood scoliosis. I think I said spina bifida earlier. I meant scoliosis.
Okay.
She ended up in the hospital upon returning to New York, enduring traction for her injury, but she remained resilient and was like, "What I wouldn't do for my career, I'm tied to peril."
Oh my goodness.
Interestingly, while Christa was recovering, she found herself sharing hospital hallways with football legend Joe Namath.
Wild. All right.
Right? Who was there for a shoulder injury at the time. The two bonded over,
Pain.
and I think they talked about wheelchair racing.
Sure.
They kept each other company in the
Yeah.
hospital. It was nice. So as the movie neared completion, rumors were swirling about reshoots to earn the film an R rating. I think they wanted a higher rating to make it more sexy.
I see.
But it was rated PG when it first came out.
Okay.
Though there's no evidence that they were trying to do that. That was more of a rumored thing. So it kept its original rating. And around this time, Christa also recorded a theme song for the film.
Amazing.
Encouraged by her then boyfriend, composer Joel Diamond. The song was produced in the UK with John Barry's orchestra, famous for its work on the James Bond films.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, my mom texted right as you were saying
I
that.
know you-
So sorry.
You look spaced out and you're like, cool.
My phone glowed and I was like, cool. Sorry.
I listened to the song.
Oh, not great.
Um,
Okay.
Anyway, despite all the effort and money that they put into Let's Go for Broke, the film struggles to find distribution. It did, however, get a 2-week theatrical run at the 20th Century Theater in Cincinnati, Ohio in December of 1974.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
Okay.
in 2 weeks in Cincinnati.
Oof.
That's the name of a hot new musical that I'm writing.
Can't wait to watch.
2 weeks in Cincinnati.
It reminds me of WKRP in Cincinnati. Did you ever watch that, or was that were you too young?
I've caught some
Okay.
reruns
Yeah.
on channels. Christa attended a pre-screening event for the movie, dazzling attendees with her glamorous presence. And there was a rumor that Mayor Theodore Barry even presented her with jewelry during the event, though photos of that evening remain elusive.
Okay.
Christa generated press during this time through syndicated gossip columns, sharing stories about her famous companions. Okay, I'll say this about her because I keep saying she met this person, she met that person, she's with this person. She was changing men often. Frequently. I'm not doxing that. I'm
And
not
it's
saying there's
also
anything
what
wrong with that.
she witnessed growing up.
Exactly. I mean, I understand it. And, she was very open sexually, and she was very... in the party scene, and it didn't seem like any kind of relationship lasted very long.
Yeah.
So
it does sound like her childhood and her home life greatly influenced her behavior as an adult.
Sure. So she's getting press through gossip columnists about who she's dating, who she's with, who she's sleeping with, like the trouble she's had while filming. Like all of this is documented in these gossip columns.
Yeah. And she's just spilling it everywhere.
Spilling the beans. Yet, as the film failed to gain widespread attention, Christa's dreams of stardom remained kind of out of reach. By 1974, she was with Ron Walsh, who was an assistant director, but then again, that relationship lasted all of a few weeks.
Okay.
And soon after, she moved in with adult film producer Joseph, also known as Jonas Middleton. Together, they worked on a film script titled Illusions of a Lady. While the movie was eventually produced and released, premiering in Sweden in September 1974, Christa's name was nowhere to be found on the credits. Their relationship falls apart before the movie hits U.S. theaters. The breaking point came when Middleton decided to include hardcore scenes in the film.
Yikes.
Christa wasn't on board with
Okay.
that. And so she stormed out. She tells this story. She storms out of the apartment and she's wearing her bikini and she's hauling all her luggage to her car,
Aw.
furious that he didn't even try to stop her or even help her move out. The final version of the film, a triple X-rated grindhouse flick,
Whoa.
starred Andrea True, who later became a disco star with More. How do you
Oh.
like it?
Wait, she sang that?
Mhm.
Oh.
And Jamie Gillis, who was a legendary figure in adult films. As for the movie itself, by all accounts, it was a standard exploitation fare.
I see.
So 1975 rolls around.
All right.
Mind you, she moved to New York in 1970.
Yeah, this is all happening
This
so
is
fast.
insane.
And she's so young.
Yeah. So 1975 comes, And Christa senses that Los Angeles holds more promise than New York. So she makes the leap to the West Coast. And her final months in New York, however, were filled with optimism. There are pictures of her at parties. She's looking happy. She's looking content with the decision to move to LA.
Yeah.
She was radiant at this time, surrounded by friends, and she was poised for this fresh start in Hollywood.
Sure.
A place where she hoped her dreams would finally come true.
A change of scenery.
A change of pace. So when Christina makes her way to Los Angeles...
Christa?
Oh, sorry. When Christa made her way to LA, her life takes on a glimmering sheen of Hollywood stardom, even though she's not really a star yet.
Sure.
She's living the lifestyle kind of immediately out of the gate.
Okay.
And that's because she's meeting the right people.
I see.
Her daughter, Nicole, recalls spending a summer with her during this time in LA.
I was going to ask, did Nicole go with her, or is she still back on the East Coast?
Nicole's still on the East Coast. I don't know if Nicole's living with Dolores or she's still with the lady in Vermont.
Tell me who Dolores was again. That was a friend of
the
Christa?
Mother.
Oh, that's her mom.
That's her mother,
Got it.
yeah. So... It was Nicole says that she spent a summer there. It was right around her birthday, and she said that Christa threw her a surprise party that night, which was really sweet.
You know what would be sweeter? If Christa had raised her child.
Nicole talks about meeting Mick Jagger at a party without realizing who he was.
Sure. And
learning to swim in Ingle Humperdinck's pool.
Wild.
Engelbert Humperdinck's pool, sorry.
No, I was with you.
Engelbert. So Nicole says that she was a movie star in every sense of the word. Like, not
to
actually.
Nicole, yeah.
She was a movie star.
Sure.
Christa's childhood friend, who we've mentioned before, Darlene, also visited her in LA. And Darlene says that Christa took her to a Hollywood party. And Darlene's like, I was a fish out of water, but Christa always made me feel welcome. So when Christa first arrived in LA, she was reportedly set up in a luxurious home in Westwood or Bel Air by Stuart Duncan, producer. Duncan had still been supporting Christa financially at this point. She made the move with a friend, with Lenny, the costume designer.
Oh, okay.
Who had promised to connect her with the Hollywood insiders.
Yeah.
Because he knew people too.
All right.
While hopes for her film Let's Go Broke were fading, Christa found smaller roles on television. She had appearances in Starsky and Hutch and Wonder Woman, both in 1976. So she got a couple little bit parts on TV shows. Christa was well known and highly sought after in the celebrity scene, with many male celebrities in town considering her their go-to escort. When I say escort, I'm not talking like a sex worker.
Gotcha.
I mean, she was just a popular girl that you would go out on the town with and be on your arm for premieres and stuff.
Sure.
That's what I mean by it. Christa actually had considered being a high-class call girl in the past. Like, she was offered that sort of life. And she just didn't want to do that, and that wasn't her path.
Yeah.
She did, however, have connections everywhere and was the person everyone wanted to be seen with. During this time, Christa claimed that the Shah of Iran, who I mentioned previously, had flown her to his palace for a week.
What?
It was rumored that the U.S. government had asked her to gather information on the Shah's activities, and she reportedly filtered details back to them.
What?
The Shah gave her lavish gifts, including jewelry and furs, and was said to be infatuated with her, though he had many other women in his harem. So there's this rumor. This is not, of course, not verified, but like, she did meet him, the Shah, because Nicole remembers having seen him or met him. And it was rumored that she was like getting secrets for the government.
That's wild,
right? So there's this weird like rumor of espionage with this like high-ranking guy in Iran. Crazy. So Christa, not only is she with the Shah of Iran, let's talk about some other high-profile individuals that she had been with.
Let's do it.
Warren Beatty. Desi Arnaz.
Oh.
George Hamilton.
Okay.
Mick Jagger.
Well.
Jack Nicholson. Roman Polanski. Wow. And the previously mentioned football legend, Joe Namath.
I knew that they weren't just having wheelchair races. There was more going on there.
Nope. It didn't seem like she was just friends with men unless they were gay.
I mean,
which is fine.
Consenting adults, do what you gotta do.
I applaud.
Kevin, aspires
I applaud
to
your
be.
I applaud your roster. So again, she has her diary and she's keeping everything written down.
Still.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
But
dedication.
Kate, she's not only writing all this stuff down. There were instances where she secretly taped herself having sex with some of these guys.
Whoa.
I will say, I wonder how true that actually is. Because we hear from her friends that she was doing this.
Okay.
Have we ever seen any of the tapes? Absolutely not. I'll talk a little bit more about what happened to the diary and these potential tapes. So one of Christa's more serious relationships during this time was with actor Michael Sarrazin, whom she dated for about 8 months.
Okay.
They even lived together briefly in his hillside home. But like many of the romances before, doesn't last. She was then also involved with Bernie Cornfield, a wealthy financier and infamous womanizer who lived in a sprawling Beverly Hills mansion.
Bernie Cornfield?
Cornfeld.
Still.
So by 1976, Christa's circumstances begin to shift. She left her lavish home and moved into a 2-story loft known as the Red House, which was located on Franklin Avenue and Kings Road. She shares the space with a roommate named Stephanie.
Okay.
The dynamics in Christa's life became increasingly volatile. She was working on a disco album with producer and New York DJ Frankie Crocker and a group of musicians for Casablanca Records, which was founded by Neil Bogart. Things get fucking messy here. And tensions ran high in the recording studio, with tangled relationships and jealousies brewing among the bandmates.
Yikes.
One backup singer, Debbie Danilo, was dating keyboardist Blair Anderson. Blair was also hooking up with Christa, and later tells investigators that Debbie had been caught spying on him and Christa through a window the night before Christa's murder. Christa was also sleeping with Frankie, who's the DJ and producer, and apparently, quote, had him by the balls.
Yikes.
And Christa was also having a sexual relationship with another backup singer, Patty Collins. So she's also having relationships with women.
Yeah.
So she's bisexual. Accounts of Patty are varied, with some describing her as a jealous person and very controlling. Others saw her as sort of emotionally detached and indifferent to Christa's other relationships.
This is getting real messy.
Well, and Debbie, it's weird with Debbie because Christa made it known that she had a crush on Debbie.
Oh.
As well.
Oh, okay.
And was like, you're hot, want to get together. And she's like, I'm really sorry, I'm not bisexual or gay. But then that's also weird that like Debbie would be jealous of Christa having sex with her boyfriend Blair, the keyboardist. This is a whole myriad of sexual. Everybody's fucking each other. Everybody's just making
Sounds like it.
Amid the chaos, Christa seemed to sense trouble. 6 months before her death, she sends a postcard to her friend Darlene. Quote, I'm in over my head.
Ooh.
I might need to disappear for a while. If anything happens to me, please take care of Nicole.
Well, that's ominous.
Mm-hmm.
This is giving Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Right.
The diary, the
Yeah.
men.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah. In her final months, Christa worked as a waitress at Sergio's Le Club, a glamorous Beverly Hills hotspot frequented by celebrities and politicians. At this time, her roommate Stephanie says that Christa was down on her luck. Things weren't going very well. Stuart Duncan, the producer who was bankrolling everything, cuts off his monetary support to Christa.
Okay. I was wondering when that was going to happen.
It happened. And Stephanie offers Christa to stay in the house rent-free.
Wow.
But it did make the living situation a little tense.
Sure.
So Stuart Duncan visited Christa in LA once, and Stephanie described his behavior as leechy and demeaning.
Ooh.
So he's turning on her. Christa's glittering Hollywood life was a precarious balancing act, teetering between ambition and danger. She made waves wherever she went, but those waves often rippled into conflicts that she couldn't always control. Because remember, she likes, sleeping with all these powerful men and then bragging about it and gossiping. And I think in New York, that was sensationalized. But she gets out to LA and gets in with all of these people, and she starts pissing people off.
It's bound to happen.
It's not flying in LA like it did in New York. So things were starting to fall apart.
Yeah.
She doesn't know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
So on the night of February 11th, 1977, there's a party in Laurel Canyon.
Okay.
It's a big one, brimming with music, chatter, and, you know, a lot of energy. Christa attended the gathering with her roommate, Stephanie. She takes Stephanie to this party. Though the details of who hosted the event remain murky. I don't know whose party it was. It was just a big LA party in Laurel Canyon.
Oh, wow. All right. You sound like Billy Eichner there.
Good. I take that as a compliment. So Stephanie recalled that the two had tried to reach out to Sandy Smith. Sandy Smith was Christa's music agent.
Okay.
Who lives in West Hollywood. And so they call up Sandy and they're like, hey, Sandy, come join us. Come to this party. And then Sandy's like, no, I'm going to bed. Leave me alone.
That would be my answer.
Right. So at some point during the evening, Christa approached Stephanie with a strange, unsettled expression. And Stephanie says that there was this funny, cloudy look on her face. And when she asked what was wrong, Christa was just like, oh, you know, nothing's wrong. I'm fine, whatever. But she's still sensing that something is off.
Yeah.
And something had shaken her, definitely. Even though she's like, I'm fine. Nothing's wrong. We're good. That image of Christa's face would haunt Stephanie for years to come.
Ooh.
Stephanie didn't stay at the party long. Her boyfriend came to pick her up. She was heading to the beach for the weekend with her boyfriend, and so she gives her car keys to Christa to get home.
Okay.
As Stephanie and her boyfriend drove down Sunset Boulevard later that night, Stephanie was overcome by a sudden wave of dread.
Ooh.
She made her boyfriend pull over so she could call home, but nobody answered. She didn't know then that her unease would soon prove tragically warranted. Christa left the party sometime after Stephanie did, but what happened next remains a mystery. In the early hours of February 12th, she drove to Sandy Smith's house. Remember the guy,
the music
agent who she was trying to get to come to the party.
Yeah.
His house was at 9020 Lloyd Place in West Hollywood. The car she was driving came to an abrupt halt near the property, parked in front of a neighbor's house. Some investigators speculated she might have been driving erratically, possibly even being followed, but photos of the scene contradicted claims of a blown tire. What is clear is that her journey ended in violence.
Oh.
Christa was brutally attacked with a large butcher knife and a blunt object.
Oh my God.
The assault was ferocious, and despite her martial arts training, remember she worked at that karate club with her first husband, so she has some martial arts training. And resistance, her attacker overpowered her, unfortunately.
And this took place in the car?
This took place outside of the car in front of Sandy's house.
Okay.
So they're like, she pulled her car up in front of a neighbor's house on the street. And people were wondering, like, why did she stop there? Like, because it was a weird scene. Like, why would she just pull up next to the neighbor's house? So that led people to believe that, like, something was happening, that she felt she needed to get out of the car.
Huh.
So her body was found partially tucked under a parked car belonging to Sandy's live-in girlfriend, Nancy, on the opposite side of the house. So at around 1:30 a.m. in the morning, a man named Thurman Brooms stumbles upon Christa's lifeless body.
Oh, God.
He later claimed to have been there as she drew her last breath, though this assertion has been doubted. Panicked, Brooms knocked on Sandy Smith's door but received no answer. He then drove to Los Angeles Sheriff's Office in West Hollywood to report what he had found. Brooms, who owned a limo service company called Bear's Limo Service, spent the rest of the morning being questioned by police. His life would also meet a tragic end on December 5th, 1979. Brooms was murdered in a drug-related assassination.
Ooh.
Despite his brief and grim involvement in Christa's story, he left behind an unusual legacy. His name, for whatever reason, appears in the special thanks section of Prince's debut album.
What?
Right? Right?
Like Prince?
Prince. I'm assuming maybe because of the limo service. I don't know. I tried to find it out. No information.
That's so weird. Also, why would he say that he was there for her last breath if he wasn't? Like,
I don't know.
Is that just like something that like he just wants to insert himself into
He
it?
might be. He walks up and says that he saw her like take her last breath. At just 27 years old, Christa Helm is gone.
Wow, so young.
And the violence of her final moments cast a long shadow over her story. The events surrounding Christa's death are a haunting mystery. One critical piece of evidence was missing from the scene: Christa's purse. It was never recovered.
Weird.
Leading to speculation that her attacker may have been after its contents, particularly the diary that she kept of the men she slept with.
Did she just keep that in her purse? Oh.
This was the diary that had all the intimate details.
Yeah.
It had the names. It had the ratings. This was a big potential leverage for blackmail or publication. Like getting a hold of this diary would be a big deal. You know? Detective Larry Gansey was assigned to the case and quickly concluded that this was not a random mugging. The level of violence suggested a deeply personal motive. The attack was brutal. Stabbings to her neck, chest, and abdomen were accompanied by blunt force trauma to her face and head. There was even speculation that 2 attackers could have been involved, given the ferocity of the assault, though this theory remains unproven. So when Christa was found, she was clutching a set of keys beneath her body, which is the keys to Stephanie's car.
Okay.
Detective Gansey matched the keys to the car parked outside. Initially, police weren't sure if the victim was Stephanie or someone else. They thought it was Stephanie.
Oh, sure.
First.
Yeah.
But Stephanie went home that night and then she left for the weekend. So like she's with the boyfriend. He picks her up. They run home real quick. And then they go off to the beach for the weekend.
So Stephanie doesn't even know yet.
Stephanie doesn't even know yet. But when she gets back from the trip, she goes to find their apartment in disarray. Someone's gone through everything at the apartment.
Okay.
And she learns that Christa is dead.
Oof.
So she declined to identify Christa's body because they wanted to bring her in to identify who it was. But unfortunately, she was unable to do that. So they had to get someone else to
They didn't call her family?
Well, they don't know who she is.
Oh, because her purse is gone. Okay, right.
There's no identification. Yeah. So eventually they find someone to identify it was Christa Helm.
Who identified her?
Sandy Smith.
The music agent?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, I mean, it was outside
agent.
his house.
Right. He identifies her. So the autopsy was performed by Dr. Robert Zedelis and revealed the full extent of Christa's injuries. At least 22 stab wounds, many inflicted after she was incapacitated, suggesting overkill.
Yeah.
Some wounds indicated she was already lying face down when her attacker struck from above. The official cause of death was massive blood loss from the numerous stab wounds, any of which would have been fatal on their own.
It's like so brutal.
It's awful. Toxicology reports showed no alcohol or barbiturates in her system, and there was no evidence of unprotected sexual activity. So yeah, by 1:35 a.m. that morning, Christa had succumbed to the injuries.
I am a little surprised about the no...
I'm too, because she was just at that party.
Yeah, and when you mentioned like she had that kind of cloudy look in her eyes or whatever, I thought maybe she was on something, or maybe someone had slipped her something in a drink.
Nope.
Weird. Okay, so someone said something to her.
Someone said something to her and she was scared. Her remains were returned to her family in Wisconsin, where she was laid to rest at Forest Home Cemetery. Her gravestone bears the inscription, Volfile Sandra C.H. Clements, 1949 to 1977. Loved always. In the investigation that followed, Sandy Smith claimed to have been asleep during the attack and difficult to wake, a detail that investigators scrutinized closely.
Yeah.
Neighbors provided eerie accounts. One heard an argument between a man and a woman, while another, actor John Grease, reported hearing blood-curdling screams. Armed with his late father's gun, Grease stepped outside because he hears this screaming, and he's like, what the fuck is that? So he grabs his gun and then goes outside, but he saw nothing.
Weird.
Police later told him that if he had ventured farther, he might have witnessed the murder itself. He was close, but it wasn't in direct sight when he steps outside.
I see.
From the outset, Detective Gansey suspected a link between Christa's murder and the killing of actor Sal Mineo.
Really?
who had been stabbed in the same area exactly a year earlier. However, the eventual suspect in Mineo's case, Lionel Ray Williams, was not connected to Christa's murder. It was originally thought that Lionel Ray was in prison at the time of Christa's murder, so they ruled him out.
Okay.
But further research, he wasn't in prison. I don't know if that's a coincidence. There's no physical evidence that ties him to the murder.
Okay.
But same area, same neighborhood,
It's weird.
late at night, 1 year later. It's weird,
Yeah.
to say the least. Later in the investigation, detectives received a tip implicating Rudy Mazzella, who was a man connected to Christa's keyboardist, Blair, who was working on that disco album with
Right.
her. A friend claimed Rudy had confessed to the killing, but Rudy denied involvement and was never charged. When cold case detectives revisited the lead decades later, they found Rudy had already died and passed away. I don't think it was Rudy. I think that was just like hearsay, rumors. It doesn't sound to me like he was involved in any way.
All right.
So for years, Christa's case remained stagnant, eventually slipping into obscurity. And until her daughter decided to make a phone call to the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department's cold case division. This goes cold for decades.
Yeah.
1977, and then I think it was like 2007, 2008.
Oh, wow.
When Nicole was like, let's try to revisit this and see what we can find out.
Yeah.
Right? She's like, please open this. And the call breathed a new life into the investigation, and detectives Larry Bradenberg and Thomas Harris were assigned to pick up the pieces. So they began to sift through all the old leads, looking at the evidence again, and tracking down individuals connected with the case.
Yeah.
One of the more intriguing figures to emerge during this investigation was Tony Sirico, best known for his role as Paulie Walnuts on The Sopranos.
When I lived in LA, I went to this nail salon all the time, and he was in there getting a manicure and a pedicure.
Amazing.
I was like, yes, you
love
are.
Decades before his Hollywood fame, Sirico was known for his connections to the Colombo crime family in New York.
Oh.
And his extensive rap sheet, which included over 24 arrests.
Damn.
By the late 1970s, Sirico had moved to Los Angeles to pursue acting, where he crossed paths with Lenny Barron, an unexpected companion given their vastly different worlds.
Yeah. I kind of love that friendship.
I know, right? That's amazing. Following Christa's murder, her roommate Stephanie received a chilling phone call. A menacing male voice on the other end said, "I heard you like to party. I'm right down the street."
Ew.
Terrified, Stephanie turned to Lenny, who enlisted Sirico to stay with her for protection.
Okay.
The cold case detectives questioned Sirico about a claim that he had taken furs and tapes from Christa's apartment the night she was killed. Sirico denied ever knowing Christa and requested a lawyer. That was the end of his involvement with the investigation. He was never questioned again, and all subsequent attempts to interview him were rebuffed. It's thought here that Lenny knew about the tapes and diaries because he was so close with Christa.
Yeah.
And that it's thought that maybe he was trying to protect Christa and the people mentioned in her diary.
I mean, I could see that.
So there's also the idea, allegedly, that maybe Lenny and Sirico went into Christa's apartment to get that stuff out of there.
I see.
You know what I mean?
I could definitely see that.
I could see that, but, who knows?
We don't know.
A breakthrough of sorts came with a startling forensic discovery.
Tell me more.
Blood samples preserved from under Christa's fingernails were tested and revealed DNA consistent with a female.
Oh.
This revelation raised the possibility that Christa's killer, or at least someone involved, was a woman. However, the significance of the finding remains uncertain. DNA can transfer through everyday interactions, and Christa had been with Stephanie earlier that evening.
Sure.
She was driving Stephanie's car.
True.
And had likely come into contact with her DNA innocently. However, I think in obscurity, Stephanie has never been found and able to be tested for this DNA because it's been so long.
Yeah.
The renewed investigation did spark public interest, particularly through media coverage. It was featured on an episode of 48 Hours and revisited a decade later in an episode of Mysteries and Scandals, which also included commentary from people who were tied closely to the case. However, both detectives Bradenberg and Harris have since retired, and no new detectives have been assigned to continue the investigation. So it was reopened, but they really didn't find anything out. Police actually did end up swabbing Debbie, who is the backup singer that the keyboardist was involved with. And that wasn't a match. Because remember, there was that whole thing where Debbie was reported to have seen Christa and her boyfriend hooking up.
So let me ask you this. Did they find Patty?
In the 48 Hours episode, they allegedly do find Patty Collins.
Okay.
But I don't know how true that is because the woman that they talked to said that she had never lived in LA, she never knew Christa, and that she had nothing to do with anything of that lifestyle.
Which sounds exactly like something a murderer would say.
Right.
I mean, do we know if that woman was telling the truth?
I have no idea. That's the thing. Yeah, something is off there with Patty.
Okay.
So I don't know if they had the wrong Patty.
Huh. I mean, it's not an uncommon name, but still. It's not an uncommon
name, right. And this lady was like, yeah, no, don't know anything, don't have anything. I couldn't find if they swabbed her for DNA or not. Yeah, unfortunately, Christa's murder is still unsolved to this day.
Wow.
And for now, the case remains in limbo. And Nicole's call, reignited hope for justice, but no one's actively assigned to it right now. So without active pursuit, Christa's story is once again at risk of fading into the shadows. That is the horrifying, brutal murder of Christa Helm.
Man, I want to find Patty.
And people did say that Patty was jealous and controlling. But also I read stuff where people were like, the injuries to Christa were so immediately like deadly.
Yeah.
That they wonder if it was like some kind of assassin thing.
I wonder too, you mentioned like it could be two people. If someone held her down while someone else stabbed her. Because I do think it would be difficult for a woman to inflict, not that women can't, but for a woman to inflict those kind of injuries. I feel like Christa could maybe fend off one woman to an extent, depending on what the injuries are, unless there's someone else there.
Right. We don't know.
Yeah. Huh. Well, let us know if you guys have any thoughts. You can do that on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or Spotify at
Horrorwood Podcast.
Or send us an email at
horrorwoodpodcast@gmail.com.
And you can jump on over to Patreon, and that is at
patreon.com/horrorwoodpodcast.
That's it. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Don't do murder.
Don't do it.